whom the world regarded in a certain way. And there's Bernadette, who is the daughter of God, the child of God. And both of those, if you like, ran through all her life. Bernadette, as we all know, was in this little town of Lourdes. She was a nobody. Nobody, and that remained as an unimportant person without, if you like, many gifts, right through her life, also in the convent afterwards. She was, the age of 14, someone who couldn't speak French, who couldn't speak the language, who hadn't made her communion. Her parents had fallen on bad times, honest people, lovable people, praying people, but who fell in bad times. And they moved from one house to a place that wasn't good enough to be used as a prison. And that's where they lived. And Bernadette with others came down here, as you know, to collect firewood to sell because Lent was coming and they wanted to celebrate on Shrove Tuesday. The lady appeared to her and the rest is history. This Bernadette in this town and her family would not have been highly regarded. They were among the poor, the unlettered. Her father had been put in prison, wrongly accused of stealing food because they didn't have enough. Later, when she went to the convent in Nevers, she was regarded as unimportant when it came to making her vows. And they wondered afterwards, what work would she do? The Mother Superior had said, what will we do with Bernadette? She's good for nothing. Bernadette had a wonderful sense of humor. She said to her, that sounds better than the last time. Last time you told me I was no good. Now at least I'm good for something. I'm good for nothing. But that hurt her all her life. She worked there with the sick in Nevers, but she was never allowed to take charge. She did the work of the person responsible, but she wasn't good enough to be in charge. And Mother Vazou, who was once there she was the head of the convent, Mother Superior, she thought Bernadette was not good enough to have had the visions. Bernadette couldn't pray properly, she couldn't meditate. She wasn't into deep thoughts. Bernadette wasn't a theologian. She didn't come from the right background. And Mother Vazou thought that she wasn't worthy, if you like, that Our Lady should have come to visit her. In fact, Mother Vazou asked that her canonization be deferred until after her death. That's one Bernadette. There's the other Bernadette, if I call her the child of God, who knew what she was. It began with her parents. Her parents, Francois, her father, his mother-in-law had tried to make an arranged marriage for him. He married out of love. He didn't marry the lady who was going to be, if I say, forced on him. He married Louise because he loved her. Bernadette was born out of love, and she grew up in love. And even if they were poor, she knew she was loved. That was her life there. But maybe her big moment came here. This little nobody, unimportant, unaccepted, etc. She came, and from the grotto, she saw this vision. It was, first 2 days were silent, but on the fourth visit, when she asked the lady for her name, she said, I'm sure you know the story, it is not necessary for me to give my name now. But she said, would you do me the pleasure of coming here for 2 weeks? Bernadette never forgot that. Never forgot it was the way that she looked at her. She said she looked at me. Bernadette was a little nobody here, but she said she looked at me as if one person looks to another. She never forgot her eyes looking at her. And would you do me the pleasure? She didn't say, little Miss Nobody, you come here for 2 weeks. Would you do me the pleasure? And that struck Bernadette so much all her life, that she was treated as a person. She was somebody in this lady's eyes. And that remained all her life with Bernadette. When, for instance, they were making statues for the grotto, Bernadette kept on saying, no, 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 you haven't got her right. She looked at me. It was the way she accepted and made someone special of Bernadette. Now, that, if you like, was there. Bernadette was treated by Our Lady as who? As someone special, because she was. Like me, like you, like all of us, she was a child of God. She's God's child. Poor, rich, sick, well, old, young were made in God's image, and God is our Father. And Bernadette knew she was special. And Bernadette, treated people as special. She had no regard for high ups because they were important in world eyes. In Bernadette, the most important people were the poor and the neglected and the sick. The reason she joined the convent in Nevers was so that she could look after the sick. She said, when you're looking after them, she said, they're special. Don't wait to be thanked. They too, if you like, are made in God's image, and they're special. She wasn't scared of high authorities. When it came to dealing with the authorities here, the police constable, the doctor, the prosecutor, the priest, she wasn't afraid of them. She didn't want to see them, but had to face them. And wasn't afraid of dealing with them. It's not the high and mighty who